America. Welcome to the program. There is a lot to discuss. There is some amazing things that nobody could find. That was a problem for the president in the new Tom Hanks documentary, which I think is Tom. You must be so proud. You must be so proud. You're so neutral in this. You're making a campaign film. It really is a propaganda film for Barack Obama. The problem with it is the filmmaker said, the only thing that we could really find bad about Barack Obama is that it was just so good. I've never...
Yeah, here's what he said with Piers Morgan the other night.
Documentary makers, balance these movies with the negative as well as the positive. What are the negatives in your movie about Barack Obama?
Well, the negative for me was there were too many accomplishments. I had, 17 minutes to put them all in there. But I think...
come off it. You can't say that with a straight face. Come on, Faye.
I'm looking at you right now with a straight face. Look,
the only negative about Barack Obama is there are too many positives.
That was the negative, the negative for me, which was, the challenge for me is I wanted to put more in there. I really did.
But are there any negatives in there?
I think they're negatives in the sense that the challenges when you're trying to pass health care in a really toxic environment, they're negatives in terms of the opposition he's had.
That is Debbie Wasserman Schultz worthy right there.
It is Debbie Wasserman.
Really
That's
is.
Almost Debbie Wasserman Schultz syndrome right there. That is as past
After 4 years, the only bad thing they found about their time in office was it was just too good.
I'm glad, too, they got the guy, Tom Hanks, who also brought us the documentary about how we were all just racists in World War II. Wasn't that the same?
Yeah, it is.
That's right.
It is.
All it was about our Japanese racism. Certainly nothing to do with, Nazis and stuff.
And being attacked.
Or being attacked by the Empire of Japan.
It certainly had nothing to do with that. It was our racism.
It was our racism. You know what? Tom Hanks, how do these guys dupe us? And, I apologize to the family members, unless they're all communists too, of Jimmy Stewart. Because I've always thought that Tom Hanks was our Jimmy Stewart. He couldn't be further from Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart and Hank Fonda, they were all decent Americans. They loved the country. They were decent, good Americans.
I don't know that. This thing, is he just a crazy Hollywood liberal, which you'd sort of expect. Though I feel like for a long time he wasn't out there making a big deal out of that.
Oh no, of course not.
I don't know why that's
they all hide. Look at Barack Obama. By the way, the name of this documentary is The Road We've Traveled. Right? Mm-hmm. Could you do me a favor? Could you look up Stuart Chase? I believe Stuart Chase is the guy who coined the term the New Deal. I'm pretty sure. There's this book from the 1930s that was written by Stuart Chase, and I thought of it this morning as we were thinking about the movie The Road We Traveled. Stuart Chase, you see
it? It has been suggested he was the originator of the expression "a New Deal."
Okay. Progressive?
I'm just reading a sentence here.
I'm pretty sure. I think this guy was a big FDR guy. And he wrote this book called The Road We Are Traveling. And it was written in 1942. And he said, we're on this road, and after the war is finished, he wrote this book in 1942. After the war is finished, we're going to have to clear up this mystery. But what we are now is no longer, it's not socialism, it's not capitalism. He just called it in his book X. And he said, we'll have to define it later, but it's X. We don't know what to call it yet. But there's some major characteristics, and it's displaced our system of free enterprise, and it will all over the world. He said we could call it communism, we could call it fascism, we could call it state capitalism. We just don't know what it is. Now, he said, try this on for size. This is what it is. This is how you would describe it. A strong, centralized government. Would you say we have that?
Check.
an executive arm growing at the expense of the legislative and judicial arms.
Yes.
Got that? The control of banking, credit, and security exchanges by the government.
Yeah, jeez.
The underwriting of employment through armaments or public works.
Yeah, absolutely. Stimulus package and so much more.
The underwriting of Social Security by the government. The underwriting of food, housing, and medical care by the government. The use of deficit spending to finance these underwritings.
We're 100% so far.
The abandonment of gold in favor of managed currencies.
Obviously.
Been there.
The control of foreign trade by the government. The control of natural resources. The control of energy sources.
Yep.
The control of transportation. The control of agricultural production. The control of organized labor unions. The enlistment of young men and young women in youth corps devoted to health, discipline, community service, and ideologies consistent with those of the government authorities.
They're kind of working on that right now.
Heavy taxation with special emphasis on the estates and incomes of the rich. State control of communications and propaganda.
This is like a mission statement for the Obama administration.
May I? This book was not an indictment of it.
Okay.
It was saying, this is great. Remember, this is the guy who coined the term the New Deal. This is the road we're traveling. Now, is it a coincidence? I'm sure it is. Is it a coincidence that anybody who has studied progressivism, I mean, when I heard the name of this documentary, I mean, you were with me, Pat.
Oh, yeah.
Immediately.
Perked up right away, yeah.
Wait a minute, I have that book. I had it wrong. I thought it was The Road We Traveled. The name of the book is The Road We're Traveling.
That makes so much sense because they were traveling that road then. Now we've traveled it.
We've traveled it.
And now it's past tense. We're there.
This is yet another knife in the back to anybody who doesn't know, and a wink to anybody who does know the history. Anybody who is a Cass Sunstein, I mean, Cass Sunstein wanted this job because he's a fan of Edward Bernays. He knows. He salivated over this job. He couldn't wait. Those guys would absolutely know. I mean, remember when they were talking to us about Father Coughlin, and we were like, oh, they were calling me Father Coughlin. And we're like, who the hell is Father Coughlin? They knew. Mm-hmm. They know these players. They know who Stuart Chase is. I really believe that whoever did this, they know exactly what they've done. They've said, yeah, it was X. They couldn't identify what it was. It's state capitalism. See, we were trying to do all these things in 1942, and Stuart Chase says, if we do it right, this is 1942, if we do it right, if we get it right, you will not be able to turn this ship off of that course. Now the name of this movie is The Road We Traveled?
Well, certainly by the standard they set up, they're definitely guilty. If you remember back in 2010, we did that rally, restoring honor in Washington, and they immediately accused us of stealing the speech date of Martin Luther King as if we had any idea. Exactly. They immediately accused us of that. So by their standard, clearly this has to be intentional.
So who is Stuart Chase? Who's the guy who said he was going to change the free market enterprise? That this is state capitalism. Who was he? He was a Fabian Socialist, a member of the Fabian Society at Harvard, a friend of Walter Lippmann. Walter Lippmann is the guy who every journalist in America has studied and hails as a hero. He was a eugenicist, a eugenics guy. Mm-hmm. He was a progressive. He was a member of the Woodrow Wilson administration.
Sometimes I feel like they do this stuff just to give you monologues.
I mean, I can't believe it.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. I mean, but that's what they do.
So they were traveling it in 1942, this road, and now we've finally traveled it.
Yeah, we've
and he said
arrived.
the war is going to give us a chance to actually finish this, and you won't be able to turn it off the course. You won't be able to turn it around. They did turn it around somewhat, but now the question is, can we turn it around now? The road we've traveled. The name of the book from 1942 is The Road We're Traveling. You decide. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm sure it is.